Go.
Yes, sir. Ready when you are.
All right, we'll call the special meeting of July the 1st to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Turco. Oh, looks like we lost him. He did let me know he was having some connection issues. Mayor Pro Tem Turco, are you with us?
I am.
Okay. Councilmember Doby.
Here.
Councilmember Gross.
Here, present.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Here.
All right, special orders of the day is discussion of the 2020 4th of July fireworks spectacular. Chet, would you like to start with the staff report?
Sure, thank you. And before I do, if I may make one comment for the public as well. Acting as your director of emergency services, obviously I'm empowered to take certain actions during an emergency. Today, the governor announced a string of restrictions that will obviously impact businesses across the state of California. And obviously here in Los Alamitos, this council, in anticipation of further restrictions and also in the guise of trying to assist our businesses that were about to be able to reopen, instructed staff to begin work on a temporary use permit to allow for businesses and restaurants to take advantage of the outdoor spaces around their businesses in order to allow for them to grow the amount of capacity that they were able to have within their businesses, knowing that they had been limited by orders coming out of the state. Obviously, the orders that were handed down today significantly curtail the ability of some businesses to operate inside their facilities, restaurants being probably one of the main business sectors that is impacted. Since we were already working on this type of regulation and looking for ways to lighten the load on our businesses at the direction of the council, and we intended to bring this item to you for consideration on your meeting on the 13th, I am going to take the action today to go ahead and enact essentially a temporary use permit for these businesses to allow them to use their outdoor spaces. We've developed a checklist, which they will be able to go down and develop their own plan in order to allow them to have access to this area to open up these spaces. And essentially, hopefully, it'll offset some of the economic damage that's done by the restrictions that were put in place today. And so, again, I'm taking this action as your emergency services director, and we will be bringing this item back for your consideration and approval at your meeting on the 13th. I just did not want to let any additional time go by, and I know that the council probably feels the same way, that we want to do everything we can to support our businesses during this time.
Can you clarify what that means? It means that they cannot expand their business onto the public sidewalk, but they can onto parking lot property within their property?
Well, each of these will be analyzed on a case-by-case basis in order to ensure that we were not impeding upon any ADA compliant issues and making sure that we were not impeding any access issues. Largely, we would be looking for areas that are in what I would call the parking lots, drive aisles, and those kind of sections that can be, or patio areas that can be opened up and allowed for additional space. And like I said, it would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis to ensure that we were not causing any issues with regards to, like I think you're alluding to, ADA, public access, or drive aisles. We obviously want to make sure that we're safe and that we're not causing any undue liability issues.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on that?
No, thank you. The businesses, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, with that, I will move to the only item on the agenda, the 4th of July fireworks spectacular. What I have prepared for you today is essentially just a very brief overview, which will start with the Deputy City Manager providing a overview of just the site plan, given the fact that some of the arrangements have been changed on site. The general obviously needs places to be able to park his helicopters, and we did not want to impede upon that. So we moved some things around to accommodate that, but I want you to have a view of what exactly the event would look like. I will then go through some of the finances and how exactly the costs and the revenues that allow for this to take place. And then also a quick update on some of the recent developments with regards to the COVID-19 situation, particularly those that happened today with regards to the announcement by the governor. And then also just a quick list of how some of the other cities within Orange County are reacting. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ron.
Thank you, Chet. Evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm going to try to share my screen here. If Wendy can let me. We're good?
Be good to go now.
All right. Let's see. All right. Can we see the map?
Yes.
All right, so like Chet mentioned, at our first planning meeting, which was last week, the Joint Forces Training Base notified us that they needed part of the tarmac area to park their assets, which is their helicopters. And so initially when we went to council a few weeks ago, hopefully you can see my cursor, this west end of the tarmac was also included as parking. But this is where they plan on parking their helicopters. So initially, we did not anticipate parking anything on the east ramp here. But after moving the fireworks show to the location here and making sure that we have the appropriate distancing for the firework fall zone, we are allowed to, the base granted us access to the east ramp. And so we were gonna park on the east ramp going all the way down to this. This is just an approximation. Talking to them today, we had our final meeting today at the base for the event. They are planning to consolidate their helicopters as far west as possible. And then right where their last helicopter is, I'm gonna get a measuring wheel and measure out 150 feet to put, and then that's where we're gonna drop our cone line. And that's where we could start our parking area. So, but it's roughly, they say it's gonna be roughly where it's on this map. Hopefully it's a little bit further, again, west, but it's, again, approximately over here. Overflow parking lots will be in the lots highlighted here. And then it's not highlighted in blue, but I do have access to additional overflow lots in this area here. And of course, the back area here, which is, if you guys been on the base, if people been on the base, you know that's by the Sunburst Youth Academy. We are entering off the Lexington and Orangewood gate. There's entryways in, which is the green line, and exit out during the event before 9 o'clock is all through Orangewood. Once the fireworks show is done, then we will utilize both Lexington and Orangewood as an exit. And we always maintain a fire lane for emergency personnel, and that's the red line right here. So that's basically the nutshell, real quick and dirty, of the event and a couple of the changes since our meeting of last week with the base. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you, Ron. And just if I can go very quickly through the expenditures and the revenues that make up how this event is possible. I'll start by saying that this is an event that does not have an impact on the general fund with regards to the money or the capital outlay that the city makes. Your recreation staff does a fantastic job of going out and getting sponsorships for it, and then also taking proceeds from other events in order to make this one happen. The total expenditure, which includes the fireworks shows, signage, banners, marketing, event sound, light towers, porta potties, traffic control, the coning service, and miscellaneous other items such as, radio rentals and such, total about $56,000. The revenues that pay for this come from, as I mentioned, not from the general fund. Proceeds from Race on the Base, sponsorships from the Credit Union and Republic Services, Stops at Rossmore, and then also carryover from other events. for a total of $61,000. So there's essentially about $5,000 worth of cushion there. I know that one of the main questions that was asked of staff was, in the event that we were not to move forward with this event, what exactly would be the cost to the city? And again, like I said, these are non-general fund expenses, but given the time frame that we are in, that we're within 15 days, if we were to cancel the event by Thursday, this would be the total amount. We would have approximately $4,000 in firework fees, and that accounts for just the money that's already been set for setup and staff expenditures on their side of the contractor, signage, also ads that have been placed in the news enterprise, and the sound system for a total of about $10,500. It's important for me to note at this point also that in the event that the city council were to decide to postpone or cancel this event for COVID-19 related issues, I believe and would argue that these funds would be we would be able to recapture them through the state process, going through the Office of Emergency Services, FEMA, and then also through the amount of money that the city just received as part of the CARES Act as a COVID-related expense, in the event that that was the direction that the council were to give. I'd also like to just briefly give a overview of some of the issues that have happened here that are related directly to Orange County, and maybe some of our surrounding counties recently, as late as this past weekend and then today. As you all know, Orange County was placed on a watch list. This essentially means that the state begins to work with more closely with local health officials in order to identify issues that are causing the number of cases of COVID to rise within certain areas. This is when cities reach, or I'm sorry, not cities, but counties reach higher than expected standards that the state has set with regards to positivity rates, number of cases, hospitalization capacity, and ICU capacity. At this point, we, again, as I said, we are on this watch list, and we are in the middle of a 4-day evaluation period in which the state comes and takes a look at everything that the county is doing and makes suggestions as to how exactly to move past that. This recently happened in LA County, where they received their recommendations or their orders recently, where they were ordered to close their beaches during the 4th of July holiday, their piers, their beach bikeways, and ultimately their bars. You will notice that today a similar order was made by the governor to close bars within Orange County, as well as the 19 other counties that are within that are on the city or on the state's watch list. This was accompanied by a number of other restrictions, some of which I alluded to earlier, but they just bear mentioning. One was that there would be a suspending of indoor operations for restaurants, wineries, tasting rooms, movie theaters, family entertainment centers, zoos, and card rooms for the next 3 weeks, with the goal of trying to tamp down the growth of cases that Orange County has experienced and the growth in the positivity rate that has gone along with that. Also, as I mentioned, bars are closed effective tomorrow. Also, the state beaches, the parking will be closed. And then anywhere where a local jurisdiction has closed a local beach, the state will follow suit, meaning that if there's a state beach or a county beach next to one another, that they will close if one of the local jurisdictions has chosen to close, as is the case in Ventura County. State parks will remain open. However, they will be closely monitoring any of the access in and out in order to ensure that they're not getting too close to capacity. The governor did make a number of statements as well related to just gatherings over the holiday period, noting that, even family gatherings where you were getting together with people that you had not seen for a long time were problematic. He did have a slide where he specifically mentioned that counties that are on this, that are on the warning list, that they should reconsider they should consider canceling fireworks shows. And then also made note that people should not be meeting in large groups and that they should avoid crowds. Again, these are recommendations. They are not orders. We have checked with the county with regards to whether or not they believe the Board of Supervisors is going to take action with regards to these elements. And at the moment, it does not appear that that is the case. That being said, over the last 24 hours, a number of cities have decided to cancel their fireworks shows. Just briefly, Fullerton, Laguna Beach, San Clemente, Mission Viejo, and most notably probably Irvine, Huntington Beach, and Newport Beach have all decided to cancel their shows as well. And that largely is our report for, again, for your consideration of the event that we're planning for the 4th. Again, if there are any questions, obviously I'm willing to elaborate.
Chet, those cities that canceled, some of them are today, right? But not all of them.
That is correct, sir. I do know for a fact that Fullerton canceled yesterday.
Okay, but I mean, a few canceled a couple weeks ago.
There are some that did cancel. I'm sorry, sir. I do not have the exact date of when each one of them canceled. I do know that I believe and Ron, please correct me if I'm wrong here. I do know San Clemente and Mission Viejo both decided to cancel today. I also believe that Huntington Beach and Newport decided to cancel today.
I just want to clarify, San Clemente did not cancel yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So only Mission Viejo canceled today.
Okay, sorry. I'm working off an ongoing list of calls that we are making. So
yeah. So again, Mission Viejo canceled today, but there's San Clemente, and the only other city that I'm aware of having a show is San Juan Capistrano, but they're having ongoing discussion.
Did Tustin cancel?
Tustin has not made a decision yet, so they are in a holding pattern. La Habra is still moving forward at this moment, and we have not heard from Dana Point.
Dana Point has canceled.
Oh, see, Ron's information is always best.
Okay, what I'd like to do is maybe go around the room and discuss this. I'd like to go first, if okay.
You're the mayor.
Yesterday at about, I'd say 10 in the morning, both Mark and I happened to call Chet at the same time about the same subject. And we ended up on a conference call questioning the pluses and minuses of this event. And I would like to say up front, for those of you who are counting votes, I would like to see this event happen. But I think there's a few things we need to discuss so we're all comfortable that we're all can live with the decision and go from there. There have been some changes in the LA County area, regarding shutting down LA County before Orange County got whacked today, that raised some concerns. And, I had some prior concerns about people being in the neighborhoods. Now, when the base allowed us to have the drive-in, that alleviated that concern. I'm not worried that we're going to have 1,000 cars in the neighborhoods, because there's really no parking for any of them. I do have a concern that being the only game in town, we may get overwhelmed. And Ron, it looked like you've got plenty of parking. Do you know how many spots you have available?
I estimate that we could park approximately 3,000 cars. maybe a little bit more, 3,200.
Okay. And what time do the gates open?
We are planning on opening the gate at 7:15.
Okay, and you think we'll get everybody in there in that time frame?
The reality is, Mayor, even though in our marketing out there, we try to tell people to come a minimum of an hour before the start of the show, which is 9 p.m., there's a lot of people that try to come in at 8:30, 8:45. And so are we going to be able to have everyone parked when the show starts? Probably not. But I think that we're going to have a majority of vehicles parked ready to view the show.
Well, we all know it's a slow process getting on the base. I mean, it's a one-by-one deal. So are the guards going to open up any more lanes for us coming in?
So the plan when we come into the Lexington gate is we delineate or we cone off 4 lanes. So 3 lanes are coming into the gates. And then 1 lane is always reserved for emergency vehicles. So we have 3 stations where the guards can do their checks, ID checks, and they are going to do a temperature check. So instead of just a standard, if you went out there today, they only have 1 lane in. But when we do an event, whether it's the 4th of July or race on the base, we do put multiple lanes to come into the base.
Okay. Mark, you want to cover any other questions that we had yesterday?
Yeah, just a few. Going to just the financial aspect of it, looks like the revenue is 61,000, or the fund sources is 61,000, even if it's not the general fund. Chet, how much of that, if we don't go forward with the event, how much of that can we repurpose for a future fireworks show or for other purposes?
I would say that we would be able to repurpose, and I'll give it to you in an estimation, probably about 20, I believe, was probably a reasonable number. Obviously, the sponsorships from the various organizations, and then a portion of the carryover we would be able to. But one of the pieces, obviously, the fireworks is a sunk cost. That is contract that is payable and due. So that essentially would be not lost money, I guess. It would just be that it would be paying for next year's event.
Do we have, look, I know this is a hard question to answer, but our capacity is 3,000. Do we have any idea how many cars or people we can expect, given that we're the only show in town? And if the answer is no, it's no, but.
And to be completely honest with you, Mayor Pro Tem, I can't give you any kind of estimation on that. Now, we've seen both on social media, people saying that, this is fantastic, but we don't feel comfortable coming. We'll watch from home. At the same time, we've been the subject of a number of different articles, including a CNN article that aired today. So with a link to our website. So I think everybody does know that it is going on for somebody who's looking for an event. But again, how many people will actually take advantage of that? Again, there's been pretty strong steps here in the last couple of weeks and days, even today, with regards to COVID-related issues. And so how many people decide to heed those is anybody's guess.
Right. How many attendees or vehicles do we get in a typical year where there's no COVID and where there's better times, and where there's also fireworks shows all over Southern California?
Ron, I think you're probably best equipped to answer that.
We typically park approximately 2,000 cars on the base on a typical 4th of July. And then as an event, remember, there's a whole lot of people that walk onto the base or bike onto the base. We estimate that it's anywhere between 12 to 14,000 that show up to the event.
Okay. So, I mean, if we usually get 2,000 cars on the base, and this year we're the only show in town, I mean, what happens if our capacity is 3,200? What happens if 6,000 cars show up?
You know, again, the base has offered some of their training grounds, which is the dirt, to park vehicles. We talked internally. I'm very hesitant to park vehicles there because of it's not paved. It's not leveled. So, you know, the in terms of the liability will increase in terms of damaged vehicles or damage to people's safety. So we've talked internally to the base, and you know, they're literally going to try to put in as many cars as possible. We're going to try to fill up every parking lot available that's on the base, and then if we have to turn people away, they're just going to start turning people away.
Can I add? I think realistically, with the time frame, we won't be able to accommodate that many vehicles. They are doing temperature checks for everyone inside the vehicle, not just the driver. We do have a 15-minute cushion on the back end of 9 o'clock. So we changed all the marketing. Instead of saying that the show is going to promptly begin at 9, it's now approximately 9 o'clock. So we have basically until 9:15.
I would add.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir. I would just add that prior to this meeting, I did have a phone call with the general, and obviously he, you know, again voiced his support for, you know, for us in terms of how exactly we would make things work, and that he had an understanding of, you know, the fluidity of the situation, and that in the event of things happening on the day of, that we would obviously, that his staff would be working in hand with ours in order to ensure that we tackle those challenges as they come. But again, I can't give you a strong number one way or the other with regards to how many exactly will show up to the event.
Some of the other cities that canceled, I mean, do we know the rationale behind them canceling? And, you know, if you could just give a general description, what type of events did they have? Were theirs, some of theirs similar to ours, vehicle only, or were they in-person type deals? Go ahead.
I can go through a couple of them, and then Ron, if you wouldn't mind touching on some of the ones that we have. The only one that really strikes me as very similar to ours which is a drive up kind of pre-register. Well, not that as an element that we don't have, is in San Juan Capistrano, which is at the moment still continuing. A number of these were places where you had obviously nobody has a base per se. Tustin has a similar situation to us where they would be firing near a high school. I do believe that some of the questions and some of the cities that decided to move on from these, and again, I can only speculate as to why they were doing it, such as Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, Irvine, well, at least the beach cities. I think there's a concern about basically the number of people that will actually come and watch. And essentially, as I mentioned, we're in this 4-day period of where we're being evaluated by the state with regards to what exactly additional restrictions might be put in place. And there's concern that, you know, the idea of closing down beaches or closing down additional facilities is a tool that the governor still has on the table if we were to, if cities or the county were to continue to go forward with some of these larger scale events, that there could be actions taken by the state. But again, that's speculative with regards to why other cities are approaching it this way.
Okay. I've got some comments, but if we're doing just questions right now, Mayor Murphy, I'll hold off on my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, could I ask one question? Have we done any time of study to show how long it takes to check in a car of 4 people?
No, but I've been to the base several times in the last couple of weeks, and they're pretty quick about it. What the base has told me, and again, granted, most of the vehicles is one person in a vehicle because they do it for drill weekend. The base has said that they could check 800 vehicles per hour.
And Ron, that's during their normal operations?
That's during a drill weekend. And again, when most soldiers are coming in, there's just one person in a car, granted, but they told us that they could do 800 vehicles in an hour.
Is that
one
one
soldier
entrance?
per vehicle, or do they do do they double up on the vehicle so that if it is a car with 4 people, then one person can do one half of the car and then another person can do the other half of the car to kind of cut down on the time, or is it one soldier per vehicle?
So to my knowledge, there's 3 lanes coming into the base, 3 ingress lane, and they have unlimited numbers of thermometers. So I believe it will be one soldier checking every participant in that vehicle.
So really what I'm trying to get at, do we know just physically that we can get the people on the base in the time frame we have allotted?
On a logistics standpoint, I think we could get the vast majority of vehicles onto the base in a timely manner. It will, I don't think it's going to take, we used to do, how do you call that? Vehicle checks where we tag a car and then we have checkpoints, or what we call traffic control points. And then as they pass each traffic control point, staff would yell out that the car passed them. And we normally never go past going inside whether it's a race on the base or whether it's 4th of July. So race on the base is a good barometer because we have massive people coming into the base, just like what we anticipate here for the 4th of July. We never have a car going from getting into the queue line on Lexington and actually physically parking on the tarmac more than 15, 18 minutes.
Okay. Dean, any questions?
This is our 3rd meeting speculating on what if. And from what I can tell, monitoring social media, whether it's shopping at a grocery store or dining in a restaurant, people, for the most part, are making personal and I would say safety issues and judgments on what they're doing going out. A lot of the social media stuff has said that basically they're happy that we're doing the fireworks because it's a tradition. It is the nation's birthday. It's something that we've done for a number of years. There are people saying, I think it's fine that they're going to allow people to go on the base, but I'm going to sit on my roof and enjoy the show from here. How many actual cars at this stage are going to come in, and how many we get in safely, and how many get turned away? We can talk about that on the 5th, because I don't think we know. It's a judgment that any one of the 5 of us could make. I've had experience with the wings, wheels, and rotors for about 7 years, and we've had upwards of 50,000 at that event. And it's a staggered event where they can come at any time. This one's going to be 2 hours of egress coming in. I think you're going to have a lot of people, if there's a long line waiting, they're probably going to turn around and go home, or they're going to turn around and go to a different spot that they think they can see it. There will be people doing that regardless because they just don't like traffic. If there isn't, I think our biggest discussion here really should be on the aspect of the safety concerns. And I believe staff has done everything that's reasonable and prudent in the advertising. There's just one part of the advertising and rules that I think could have been a little bit clearer. And I'm hopeful we don't have a lot of that. Southern California tends to be a tailgating community. When they come into an event, they're happy to stay on the parking lot, drink and cook. They're not going to have time to do that with this event, but we've made it very clear that there'll be no food available. So I hope we don't have, I think I would have said on the rules, no food preparation, no barbecues, in addition to dogs and everything else, just to make it clear. In reality, I wouldn't be surprised to see people picking up Subways, sandwiches, like they do for Band in the Park, come in and set out their lawn chairs and socialize. The spacing between vehicles, even allowing chairs next to the vehicles, I think has been addressed by staff. I met with the general yesterday on a different matter, and we talked a little bit about the fireworks show. He was excited to host it regardless of what way we decided to go. As I said, this is our third meeting, and I think at this point the decision has been to go forward. If anything, this meeting would be a discussion on how not to do it or what other options would be. And there's issues where we talked on our previous meetings where some of the money, if it's not spent this way, isn't going to be available to us. I'm grateful that staff has managed to figure out how to accommodate all of the cost without touching general fund money. I think those that want to venture out and come see the show will do that. Those that are still of the opinion that it's not safe will stay home. The rules are you've got to bring a face mask. Somebody posted on one of the sites that, does that mean we have to wear face masks inside the car? And I responded that the face masks were more for being out of the car, sitting in chairs around the vehicle. I think the deal on face masks in cars where it's all of the same family, that restriction really doesn't apply. So barring anything else coming down from the governor, and I'll tell you, I've talked to restaurant people today who are livid about him shutting down restaurants again because they've got consumables and food that is not, it's not going to stay there for very long. And so I think our actions earlier to try and help restaurants to move out of the parking lot is great. My feeling is we've made a decision. We should just stand behind it, and we can decide on the 5th whether it was the right decision or not.
Okay, thank you. Tanya, what do you think?
So I got a couple different things. The first is there is a huge contingent of people out there that, for lack of better phrasing, don't believe that we're in a pandemic, and they operate accordingly. And my thought is that we have a show, and everyone keeps saying we'd be the only show in town, and it would be amazing. We would get a lot of those people. A lot of our own residents, like Dean was saying, they're all saying, I'm gonna watch it from home. I have friends texting me, when is it gonna start so that I can be set up at home? It's not our residents, it's going to be from outside. And with that being said, how do you keep them in their cars? How do you stop? Like, I got small kids, and Churko, maybe you can speak to this, but when the kids see other kids, there's no mask, there's no rule, there's no get back to your car, there's none of that. And then once the parents people are still in the mode of, I want to be around other people. I want to be able to talk. Look at our spike. Like, that's part of the issue that we're fussing with now. I love fireworks, and I know that the show would be great, but what I don't want is come the 5th, then we're dealing with all of these new numbers, and now Los Al is a hot spot, and we in the news because we hosted a show where a bunch of folk now say they got sick. So I'm really, I'm not on the fence about it. I'm wondering what would be the most wise thing for us to do. And I would think it would be to postpone it because there's too many things you can't give an answer to. Like Turkle, you're asking questions, there's no answer. You know, Mayor, you were asking questions. We don't have it like, oh, well, I think, I can presume, I can make conjecture. But can we do that when it's like our residents' lives and livelihoods? I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
And I can go now.
For the big close.
Mark, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. So I jotted down some notes here just to make sure I get all my points across. You know, I obviously I want to have fireworks. I want to celebrate this great country that we live in. I've got young kids. They want to see fireworks. It's a great tradition. But I do have a lot of concerns. You know, about a month ago, we did meet, and Dean brings up a good point. We've met a couple of times, but this is a very fluid situation. And if we just stick to the decision that we made a month ago without considering new facts, new circumstances, and new developments, you know, I think that that's not necessarily being responsible. And I'm not directing that at you, Dean. I'm just saying in general, you know, when we make decisions, we keep evaluating new information. So I understand the desire to stick with our previous decision, but a lot is really changing here. So when we met a month ago, I was on the fence about this. I was worried about, you know, influx of vehicles from all over Southern California. I was worried because some cities were canceling their fireworks show. But a few things led me to think we could move forward and to go along with it. It was that the COVID cases were decreasing. That's one big part of it. The base agreed to allow vehicles on, which before that was not going to happen. So that allows a valve to accept the influx of people from out of town. And the consensus of the city council, I was part of it, was that we thought, you know, these measures and some of the rules that are being implemented would be enough to keep our residents safe. But things have changed. We have new information. You know, first of all, COVID cases are going through the roof in California. Yesterday was our single day high in new cases, hospitalizations, ICU admissions. County of LA is right next door to us, right? It's 10 million people. Not a single fireworks display will take place in the County of LA. Where are all those people? Okay. Well, the County of LA has outlawed or banned fireworks displays. So whether it happens or not, you know, maybe some people won't follow that direction, but it's on the Orange County, LA County Fire website. It's all over the place for LA County. 10 million people. I've been contacted by news media in LA asking whether somebody from our city will come on because they want to do a report on our fireworks show. Now, a lot of people are going to see these reports, and a lot of people are going to say, hey, we don't have a fireworks display near us. Let's drive down right across the county line into Orange County and watch the Los Alamitos show. You know, that's LA, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, all these cities around us, Fullerton today, have canceled their fireworks show. You know, there's a reason they're all canceling this. It's because of what's going on right now. You know, today the state of California closed down much of the state, discouraging fireworks shows, discouraging gatherings, large gatherings. And, you know, we're inviting possibly 12,000 people onto our base while we're being discouraged from large gatherings by the state of California. The social distancing measures and the mask requirements that are in place are a good step, you know, and I want to applaud our staff for doing everything they can to prepare for this event, given the very unique circumstances. But, you know, like Tanya said, we're going to have 12,000 people on the base, and are they all going to be wearing masks? Are they all going to be following the rules? We know people are not following the rules. I mean, we see it in pictures every day. We see it on the street every day, right? Nobody with masks on, and we're seeing a spike as a result. We have no idea, and I don't fault Ron, I don't fault anybody else, but we have no idea how many cars are going to come down. And my concern is, you know, the people that get on the base, they get on the base, fine. There's going to be a line in apartment row, carrier row. I mean, a huge line, because this is not a normal admission onto the base. You got to check everybody's temperature. You got to check their ID. It's going to be slow, and people are going to get sick of it, and they're just going to go park in our neighborhoods. And our neighborhoods, maybe I'm being overly concerned here, but I'm worried our neighborhoods are going to get overrun with vehicles and people hanging out on people's lawns, and there's a potential for some incidents there. Seal Beach was financially committed to help us out. They've pulled out. That's just one point I've got listed. And I've talked to a number of residents in Los Alamitos, and a lot of them have told me that they were surprised we were moving forward, given everything that's going on right now. One person yesterday in my neighborhood told me they thought it was unnecessary, that the optics look bad given everything that's happening right now, the pandemic, almost every other city stopping their fireworks show, and the budgetary issues that we have going on. So, I hate to sound like a Grinch. Like I said, I'd love to have a fireworks show, but I do think postponing the event and repurposing the funds would be the most prudent decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley?
Sure. So as the only member or resident of Carrier Row, and this is my 27th fireworks show, our neighborhood is used to getting inundated with cars. That's just how we are. We are the most popular neighborhood on the 4th of July. We all know that. This year is different because what normally happens is cars come very early, they park on our streets, and they walk onto the base. That's not going to happen. So that part of it will go away. The neighborhood won't be overrun with cars parking and walking onto the base. Where the show is in a unique location, we're the only one that actually has access to the base. The other cities have canceled it because they didn't have the ability to have a drive-through or drive-in type show. We do. We have the general of the base and the adjunct general supporting this. They are the most conservative and safety minded people out there. They haven't opened up a number of their locations, including the Navy Golf Course and different things like that, due to being overly cautious. They are still to this day in support of us doing this. If we're going to talk about, well, we don't want to do it because we're worried about all the cars, as a resident, that's not a valid excuse, because every year we have a lot of cars. Every year. 27 years worth, I can tell you the thousands of cars that have parked on my street, blocked my neighborhood, whatever, but we know it's for a short time and it's for a great purpose. We're taking every precaution. Church congregates with their drive-in services that they've been having for a number of weeks now. We're taking every precaution necessary. We're coming off and still in a season where we have canceled graduations and funerals and weddings and everything else. And we need something. I'm still going to say it. We need something, something to look forward to. If we don't have the show, and even if we do have the show, we're going to be overrun with fireworks, safe and sane fireworks, because people are going to go right down to Valley View and Chapman and they're going to buy their fireworks. And if they don't have an outlet to be able to watch the fireworks, it's going to be a lot worse. And that to me is more dangerous than having people sit in their cars on the base. It's easy to monitor if people are getting out of their cars to get them back in their cars. We've met on this, and people have now made plans, and now we're meeting on this for 3 days from now to possibly cancel an event. And I know that there's been a spike in cases, but we're taking every precaution that we can to make sure that people are safe. And if they're that uncomfortable, they're probably not out in public anyway. I just think we need this. I'm sounding like a broken record, but I just giving residents 3 days notice when we've gotten them excited about it and everybody's on board with this. I think we can still pull this off, just because of the location of the base and everything else. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Can I answer one other thought
Please.
here to kind of help Mark and maybe Tanya the same way? We get a daily listing. It's on our website of how many residents have tested positive. A lot of them have come out of the convalescent hospital on Catella. Yet that convalescent hospital today will tell you they have no positive cases among patients and they have no positive cases among staff. So numbers are numbers. They keep adding cumulative to where it looks like there's a major problem, there's a spike. They've acknowledged with Orange County Health Department that some of the numbers that are coming in are from testing that were done back on the 26th of June. And in reality, if you test positive, that means as of today, you could be symptomatic. But if you don't show any signs or symptoms in the time frame for incubation, I think, is 7 days, you go back to work. Just because numbers are spiking doesn't necessarily reflect that every one of those numbers are people that are expecting or are exhibiting signs and symptoms of the virus. It means that they've tested positive for the antibodies. We also have a situation where we're not getting the true numbers in regards to the people that have recovered and gone back to work. We're still dealing with totals that go back to March. I don't think we've seen the spike here. Their reference, as we've talked about earlier, with restaurants, get outdoors. Well, that's what this is, outdoors. You know, Tanya was concerned about kids running around, people just not staying with their cars. They've hired a parking company to help get people into their spots. Those people aren't going away as soon as everybody's in. They're going to be able to sit there and help monitor what's going on with people. If somebody does whip out a hibachi or something and start to barbecue, they can ask them not to do it. Is that 100% foolproof? No, it's not, because they're going to be people needing to go to the bathroom. So you're going to have some movement, but everybody's related to the car. So I'm not as concerned, although I don't want to have the negativity that the event was the cause of everything happening. I don't believe that it will. I think there's enough science. You know, Mark, you said there's new facts. I really haven't heard any new facts since we met on this the last time that says things are any different. Yes, there's more cases, but that doesn't mean they're in Los Alamitos, and it doesn't mean that it's related to this particular event. So I tend to side with Shelley that it's an annual tradition. It's something I think that our community kind of expects. And if they don't want to come out to it, by all means, if they're not safe, they don't feel safe coming to it, please stay home. Watch it from your house what you can. Those that can venture out and do it, or that choose to, remember, we're not charging admission. It's an opt-in type program. They're not being forced to come out here to do it. I think we've made every conscious effort to have the show without incidents as best as we can. So I'll stop at that point.
Thank you, Dean. So at this time, we're going to have to make a decision.
We already made a decision.
So
Are we asking to make a decision to change what was done in the past two meetings?
Well, we have two recommendations for the staff report. Either proceed or not proceed. Or I guess if we do nothing, we just proceed. Is that correct, Chet?
And I would defer to Michael, but I would say in absence of a motion to change, that we would just move with the direction that's currently in place.
That's correct.
you guys mind if we just went around the room and said yes or no? Anybody
Yes.
mind that? We'll go in the roll call order. I'll go first. I'm for it reluctantly, but if I was against it, I'd be against it reluctantly too. This is a 451-49 decision on my part. I have great belief that the staff will do this right, and they seem to do everything right in these events. We can't control what the people are going to do. We can do the best we can. In my mind, it's going to be 90% positive chance of being positive. There's a 10% chance it just blows up in our face. And to me, voting yes is saying we're willing to take those odds. Mark?
I'm a no reluctantly as well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I am a no also reluctantly, but I just, there's a significant possibility of negative consequences from this event. I hope I'm wrong. It sounds like it's going to go forward. I hope it goes off perfectly and everybody has a great time and there's no issues. But my vote is no.
Okay, thank you. Tanya?
I'm uncomfortable with too many unknowns. So I'm also a no.
Okay, thank you. Dean?
Yes.
You're not getting charged by the word, Dean. You can.
I'm sorry. I would be.
You can expand if you want. Okay. And Shelley?
Yep, still a yes.
You didn't change your mind in the meantime?
Nope.
All right. So it looks like if we vote, we're going to vote 3-2 for it. And
Mayor, if I may, if we're looking to have a determination made on this, I would ask that someone bring a motion that is then seconded before we put this for a formal vote.
okay. I'll make the motion to proceed with staff recommendation number 1.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we have to do a roll call?
Yes.
Oh, that's true. Give Wendy a part here other than starting the meeting.
I know, really, she's been snoozing.
I have a motion by Mayor Murphy, seconded by Councilmember Hasselbrink to proceed with the 4th of July fireworks spectacular. Roll call, Mayor Murphy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Churko,
No.
Councilmember Dovey,
No.
Councilmember Gross,
Yes.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Yes.
Can I just add that it is in no way a reflection on our staff or our city, because I am probably the biggest fan of all the events that y'all do, which is why I'm always the first in line to attend. I think y'all are amazing, and I hope that you know that. Not anything with y'all, it's the things I can't see. I love y'all.
That sentiment will get a 5-0 vote, I'm sure.
And Mayor, I'd like to add, this is all kind of new and scary for all of us, and we're all bringing our own personal experiences and what we read and how we interpret things. And, this is, once again, we're all going to agree to disagree, but in the end, we're going to shake hands and move on and make sure we do what's best for the city as a whole.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for coming in and taking an hour to discuss this. As Dean said earlier, there's a lot of questions we just won't know till July 5th.
Dean, we're going to have another meeting on this in a couple of days.
I don't.
In fact, the morning of July 4th, right? We're not doing
How are you guys Saturday morning? At this time, we will adjourn till, I believe it's the 7th now.
Yep.
And
Hey, we'll know on the 7th then.
yeah, well, we'll know by the 5th if it gets really out of hand. But thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.